Future's now, old man.
What it do, Joe Flacco? This is Future First Podcast, where we help you win today with the Future First mindset. I'm your co-host Jmac here with my co-host Jose. What's going on tonight, man?
Hey, what's up, Jmac? I'm good, man. How you been?
I've been good, man. The Bengals are back on the menu, buddy. Thursday night football was a great game. Did you catch any of it?
Yeah, I actually watched most of it. Yeah, man, it's good to see. I guess Flacco can make a difference, right? Just the ability to kind of read the coverage, get the ball out before the O line crumbles around him. Calling his own number to run for 15 yards when he's 45 years old or whatever. That's some wild stuff. But I don't know. I guess Jamar Chase is just built for it. And 23 targets, like that was wild. I mean, that's what us simpletons that aren't NFL coaches just say, like, why can't you just throw it to Jamar Chase every play? And I guess they showed us that it is possible, right? Like, why do other teams not do this? I don't know. They won the game too, right? So like, it's one of those things that just it's nice to see for fantasy. I think everybody was panicking, and if you held Jamar Chase, then you're in a I think a okay spot. You're feeling okay about his production, at least not being a giant anchor on your team for the rest of the season.
Yeah, man, he's a machine. We're only worried about that machine breaking down. And he showed that he is somewhat human. So I guess he's a cyborg. He dropped a pass, but I guess that happens when you get targeted 23 times, right? I mean, you can't be expected to catch every single one of them. But yeah, man. I mean, we were talking about him a couple weeks back, and I think we were saying like, "Hey, are you selling Jamar Chase?" And I think we even said like, I think you got to hold him unless you can sell him, sell high, like for what people, were thinking his value was worth in the beginning, because you never know. Things can change. They can go get a quarterback, and they went and they got a quarterback and Joe Flacco reviving the Bengals offense. I mean, even T. Higgins got involved. I mean, even Noah Fant on one of our teams that we are co-managing, we're trying to tank, and Noah Fant went and put up 14 points on that team, and I don't, I don't even know what to do with that, man. So yeah, I don't know. Are you? And then Chase Brown got over 100 yards. Are you trusting Chase Brown? You willing to put him back in the lineup?
I think it's kind of interesting. I think some of the stuff we're going to talk about tonight makes me, maybe think there's maybe a spot for him.
Hmm.
It definitely was a good old defensive line they were playing against. So I think it just happens to be that, like, if they can pass the ball, then they can't stack boxes, right? Kind of one of those things that it opens up the running game. If they can pass with Joe Flacco, they can't just tee off and try to shut down the run. So as overall, I think you kind of revert a little bit back, right? Like all the down, word spiral we were doing with the Bengals. I think you have to pump the brakes a little bit. At least it's
Yeah.
been two decent weeks. Chase Brown had his best game so far. So I don't think it returns to pre-draft. Like you're still probably not getting a good return on your draft capital, but at least if you haven't traded him now, you feel okay. And maybe if he has another game or two, you could still look to trade away if you're worried about the Flacco wheels might come off, because we have seen this with Flacco where he comes in and for a few games or a handful of them he looks pretty decent
Hmm.
offense, and then all of a sudden the wheels kind of fall off. It happened last year in Cleveland, and this, and obviously maybe we could just say that's all Cleveland's fault and not so much Joe Flacco. But I think there's still a range of opinions there. Chase Brown is not Jamar Chase, where he's like an elite
Hmm.
talent that I'm willing to trust. So if I can get out of the Chase Brown game, maybe I'm still looking to do that. I think it's a lot closer now. It's not full panic meltdown mode yet anymore.
Yeah, that'll be interesting if you do decide to hold him, and what that off-season discussion will look like around Chase Brown. That'll be interesting to track. I'm looking forward to that. But let's move on here and get into our episode. Well, first of all, we are on YouTube. So if you're watching there, touch down on that like button and go for two on that subscribe. Leave us a comment. We love engaging with you guys, and we're looking forward to it. Shout out to Fox, who's been helping us with our graphics, except last week. That was me. Sorry, everybody. You can follow her on X. That's at bfoxworth07. We're also on Spotify and Apple Pods. Follow and rate the show there. Give us a 5-star review. We love you guys. We got another episode here for you guys. We're going to be talking about strength of schedules and looking forward to what players we like, who might be a buy, who might be a sell. And yeah, and we're gonna tie in some fun metrics into that too to kind of add another layer to the strength of schedules here. All right, man. You ready, Jose?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, so to start off, guys, here we're going to be talking a little bit about trade rumors, right? It's kind of that time of the season where these things start kind of popping off. You start seeing some articles, or we're looking at this ESPN fantasy football article that came out a few days ago. Some players, they kind of talked about what the dream destination for some of these players are. So we're kind of going to go through, talk about the player, and then do we agree with that destination, or do we think there's somewhere better? First off, all it's the guy. I don't know if it's his agent or who puts this news out. It feels like every other day there's something about Breece Hall getting traded away from the Jets. There's even like the value that they would get back, like all these things about him. So in this article, they were talking about that the dream destination would be the Chargers for Breece Hall. So how are you feeling about Breece getting traded, and specifically to the Chargers, Jmac? What do you think?
Yeah, man, free 20. I would love to see him go somewhere. Definitely not the Chargers, though. I don't know whose dream destination that is for fantasy. I mean, sure, Breece Hall would be a stud in the Chargers offense, but that would just kill Amari and Hampton and potentially kill Breece at the same time. Like they would just eat into each other. Yeah, I don't know. I think for me, I've been hoping for Houston. And honestly, dude, if I'm being real for a dream destination, not only for fantasy but for my own selfish wants here, give him to the Niners, bro. CMC on his way out in a year or two, like let Brees eat in that offense. He would go off and be the man that we all want him to be. What about you, man?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel the same. I think the Chargers, they would be great for maybe the next 4 or 5 weeks or however long Hampton's gone. But then once Hampton came back, it would just be a cluster F that I don't think anybody would want to deal with. It does seem like one of those like NFL moves that we all hate for fantasy, but it does make a lot of sense, right? Like if the Chargers are really trying to save their season and save their running back room, trading for Brace for a fifth sounds like a really great idea, right? Maybe Vidal is that guy, so maybe they're waiting to see. But I think one of the teams you mentioned, Houston, makes a lot of sense. But in general, I just don't think they move him, especially if it's for a fifth, because probably he gets signed in the offseason, they get a better pick back. Right, like a better compensatory pick than a fifth. Maybe it's a fourth or even a third, depending on how big of a contract. So I think that's honestly the reason why they probably won't move him. They're going to gamble that they can get a better compensatory pick back. But yeah, man, from one running back to another one, I don't know how relevant this is after kind of he came out and said that if they decided to trade him, he's just going to go sip pina colada somewhere. He wants to stay with the Saints. We're talking about anybody but besides Alvin Kamara, AK there in the Saints. This article was talking about him getting traded to the Chiefs. I'll take this one
Mm.
first. Like if he got traded to the Chiefs, wow, you would like that's like amazing, right? Like you're going through the roof. Any dynasty team where you had him kind of as your elder statesman, kind of holding your running back room, you'd be very excited about. But I think just with the news that he kind of put out there, maybe it's just all him talk, and then he gets traded and he still wants to play football. He's not really ready to retire. He's just trying to kind of play that hardball with the Saints and let it be known. But what do you think, man? How would you feel, Kamara on the Chiefs?
I mean, that would be great for fantasy. I mean, putting his kind of skill set inside of the mind of Andy Reid over there, like that would just be insane. I mean, Brashard Smith would be done for the season. There'd be no hope for him to kind of break out there. But yeah, I don't know. I think there's some other ones that maybe make sense. Like I don't know where Aaron Jones is at, but if he could go to Minnesota, he could be the Lightning to Freemason Army over there. Let's see if I can get it right this time. There he is. All right. It seemed like that's what they wanted to do when they had Aaron Jones healthy. He was going to be the uh, pass down back, where Mason was going to handle all the brunt load. So that could make sense. Yeah, I don't. I mean, maybe Green Bay, even if they want to, try to take some of the load off of Josh Jacobs over there. I don't think that would be good fantasy wise for either one of those guys though. So yeah, put him on the Chiefs. He doesn't kill too much over there, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. And then maybe we could just blitz through a couple of these. Maybe just shout out these couple wide receivers. Some of this talk is Chris Olave to the Giants, and then potentially Jacoby Myers to the Patriots. How do you feel personally about either one of those?
Uh, Olave to the Giants. Sure, that makes sense. I would like to see what he could do with a competent quarterback. I like Olave's skill set. Um, I think to the Steelers might make a little bit of sense there. I don't know if the Steelers would pay the price tag for Olave. And then yeah, they've already been linked to Jacoby Myers, the Steelers that is, because they're out looking there for one. I don't know if they've been linked to them, but people have linked Jacoby Myers to the Steelers. Um, yeah, I think Myers in Pittsburgh makes a lot of sense too. And then they're saying Jacoby Myers to the Patriots here in this article. No, I mean they already have like a ton of wide receivers over there that they're not utilizing, and Drake May is just playing wide receiver by committee. Why are we going to add another guy to that graveyard? That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, honestly, I might be a little bit more interested in Olave to the Raiders. Sorry, from Olave to the Patriots. Get Drake May that weapon, right? I think he's kind of that one weapon away, kind of what we saw with Josh Allen when he got Diggs, right? Like just that one weapon away from really entering that elite status and just a guy that
Hmm.
he can always rely on. I think Olave, I mean, he's shown that he's at least healthy, right? He hasn't been getting those hospital balls thrown to him. So I think Olave to the Patriots could be pretty interesting, or any sort of kind of borderline elite wide receiver over there would be great because I think they'd instantly just demand the targets. Nobody really else is there doing that. But yeah, man, I think that's a pretty good. The NFL trade deadline is not nearly as exciting as some other places. It's hard to get those things going. I know there was another name they had in there. I think they talked about Mark Andrews potentially, and I think they said to the Buccaneers. What do you think about that?
I love that. I never would have thought about that, but man, that frees up Isaiah Likely, which I love in Baltimore. And I mean, there was already trade rumors about Mark Andrews in the offseason. And let's face it, like Tampa Bay could use another pass catcher. This actually makes a lot of sense. I don't know what kind of capital Mark Andrews would kind of carry there, but I would love that move. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I mean Baker's looking great. With all the injuries they've had, it would be a little bit worrisome for Andrews in terms of how many targets, how much would he actually see there. But while everybody's hurt, I mean Evans maybe he's coming back, but Ibuka looks like he's going to be out for a few weeks. Godwin is battling injury too. I mean it would be a significant upgrade, and honestly, maybe the biggest winner there would just be. Baker in general, like just give him another weapon to throw
Hmm.
to. That offense would, take another step forward. Mark Andrews is still a reliable threat down there by the end zone. So, yeah, man, I like it. I think that would be and would make a lot of sense, like you said.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, let's get out of this quick hit here and let's jump into some strength of schedule stock if you're ready, man.
Yep, let's do it.
All right, we are going to be talking about our favorite rest of season strength of schedules here, and we're going to start it off here with the running backs. And oh, and just for the record here, we are looking at the fantasy footballers using their strength of schedule tool. We are schedule adjusting, which is looking at the points above expected for each of these matchups here. Um, yeah, so let's dive right into it. I mean, the top five running back rest of season schedules here, and I guess one more caveat is we're looking at weeks 8 through 17 here, so that includes the fantasy playoffs starting in week 8. We have the Cincinnati Bengals, the Cleveland Browns, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Green Bay Packers. Where you want to start here, man?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely some interesting names, right, that we can think about coming up, right? Especially that first one with the Bengals, right? We were talking about Chase Brown. This was kind of what I was alluding to between with talking about Chase Brown, right? He has the best. But the fantasy playoffs are, according to what we're looking at here, some of the best you could get, right? You're playing Baltimore, who's had a horrible defense. Now that one, I would temper a little bit of expectations. They seem to be getting healthy. They do have players that could be coming back. So this is definitely something, if you're holding Chase Brown, maybe you continue to look at this. You continue to look at how the Ravens defense is performing. But through the first, by the time, you guys are seeing this, it's going to be week 7 is going to be done. The Ravens have been one of the worst performing defenses against running backs. So that's week 1 of the playoffs. Week 2, Miami, who's been a horrible defense, and we didn't talk about their trade, but they're talking about trading one of their premier defensive linemen, Bradley Chubb or something Chubb, right? I might be getting that first name wrong. So they could be even weaker run stopping. And then Arizona in the championship game. So I think Chase Brown's definitely, since we brought him up earlier, an interesting name to talk about when looking at this rest of season schedule, because if Flacco can continue to keep the offense going, then this tells me that there might be a potential, buy low if people are still kind of worried about Chase Brown, right? If people are fence sitting, you might be in for something where you can maybe buy into a guy that if you make the playoffs, you're going to have one of the best schedules, right? And this kind of ties back to one of our episodes a few weeks ago where we're talking about, like, if you're 5-1 right now, maybe 6-1, 7-0 by the time this airs, these are the type of moves where you're like, well, Chase Brown has a couple crappy games coming up because he does.
Mm-hmm.
But looking at the fantasy playoffs, he might be my ace. He might be a guy that nobody's expecting. And then when we're 3 weeks away from the fantasy playoffs, everybody's scrambling. Where's Chase Brown? And he's on my team, right? That's some of the stuff we talked about. And, that's why I wanted to put this episode out after we talked about that, because now we can kind of give you some actionable data, right? We've had 7 weeks of the fantasy season to go off. I think most of these rankings are going to be pretty accurate, at least with, if we believe the data that people are using to come up with this. But yeah, man, you want to stick with Chase Brown? You wanted to bring up another name? What are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I like Chase Brown a lot. I have him in a couple places, and I've still kind of believed in him. Like I didn't, when we were doing buy sells a couple weeks ago, like I didn't want to have to sell him. Like I was kind of like I was riding the fence. It's like, man, like I really still believe in him. I think that there's an opportunity. We even talked about how the schedule opens up for him and how things get a little bit easier. And yeah, man, the Bengals are just loaded. And now you got Flacco just rejuvenating the offense. And so it kind of feels good. And yeah, I don't know what it would take to go buy into him right now. I mean, in Dynasty, you might be able to get it done for a second. I feel like that's probably reasonable, but like if someone was panicking on them and like, oh, how do I get out of this? And like they thought they were contending, now they're moving into a rebuild. That might get done. You might have to throw a little bit more on top of that, maybe 2 seconds. I would probably still feel okay about that. Um, but yeah, I like Chase Brown moving forward. I am really interested in the next one on the list here. If you want to move into that one.
Yeah, 100%. Our boy Judkins, I know you just bought him in a league where we're playing against each other. And I got to be honest, I was when I looked at my phone and I went, bleep bleep, because I had been trying to trade for Judkins. I had been getting nowhere. The manager, was kind of giving me a little bit of the cold shoulder. They didn't want to trade Judkins. It is a keeper league, so they were, that's my keeper, so on and so forth. And you're one of the better teams. I'm struggling. I've been waiting for Rice to come back, and I was trying to get in on Judkins because I kind of saw some of this, and we just overall how he was playing. The
Mm,
suspension seems to just nobody's worried about it anymore. It's not a peep from the NFL or
yeah,
anybody that handles
good
that
point.
stuff. So, that might be coming next year, or maybe just not at all, on one of those things that just kind of vanishes. So I was definitely pretty upset. He's got a pretty tough matchup, I think, next week, right? New England's
Hmm.
looking like but the rest of this season looks really, really good for him, right? He's got Chicago in week 1 of the playoffs, then Buffalo, and then Pittsburgh, who we just saw get completely demolished by Chase Brown. They're a defense that's good for fantasy football defense because they get a lot of those big plays, sacks. But in terms of their overall, they're not the defenses that Tomlin has had throughout the years. They're actually kind of poor in a lot of things. So he's got a really juicy fantasy playoffs as well. So I mean, a lot of this plays into like, it's not just like the weeks coming up, but a lot of these guys we're talking about, especially these two, their playoffs are really, really good, right? Like it's the type of stuff that helps you win championships. So yeah, man, I know you're in on Judkins from what we've talked about. We have him in a league together, and like I said, he just
Hmm.
went out and bought him. So yeah, man, what are your thoughts on him rest of season?
Yeah, I'm in on Judkins. I love what I've seen from him, early on this season. Um, you were a big part of me getting Judkins in that keeper league because we traded Jalen Warren for a third, so I got the third, and I had already sent that my second in the keeper league. The second is the highest value pick that we can send. We can't trade first until the draft starts, so sending a second is a big deal. And I had sent the second for Judkins straight up, but he kind of just rejected it. But then I was like, I wonder if I could take this third and then swap it for a fifth. So I got Judkins in a fifth for the second and the third, and that got it done. And he was like, I don't know if that's a good deal or not. And I was like, I feel like it's a good deal for you. I don't know if it's a good deal for me even. I like Judkins. I'm kind of and as soon as that happened, I've had people already hitting me up to try and get him. But no, I mean the schedule is just green for him. The only thing I'm worried about is, can the quarterback play buoy him, and they're not going to stack the box against Judkins. Is Judkins the only weapon on that team, and he can get schemed out by defenses just stacking the box and taking it away? I'm hopeful that won't happen. There was also some weird usage with him last week, where he didn't really get a lot of the passing work, which was a little bit concerning. I'm hoping that was just a one-off, and we'll kind of ride out into the sunset here. But yeah, all in on Judkins. My moves are reflecting it, so let's go. I got him in Toe Clan too, so let's keep it going.
Yeah, he's a guy when I've lost Hampton in a dynasty that I've kind of kicked the tires thinking to maybe go from Hampton to Judkins. And I bring up Hampton because he's the next guy on the list. The Chargers have the third easiest schedule. Now, my biggest concern with Hampton, at least redraft, when we're looking at this rest of season, is does he actually play this season? This
Yeah.
news, like, are getting a little spooky, right? An ankle that takes you into IR that then is going to take you before you've even, what's been like week 1 or 2. They're already talking about you're going to miss additional games. That's some scary stuff. And they're like, well, he's not going to be out the rest of the season. But if the Chargers get hot and start looking like they're going to make the playoffs, what do they do with their star running back during the fantasy playoffs, right? Like week 17, week 16, where he has week 16, he gets Dallas, right? If Hampton's healthy and getting a full workload, he could go for 30, 40 points, right? He could be the guy that takes you into the championship. But are they going to use him like that, or are they going to be more worried about making a Super Bowl run, right? Like if you have your star running back and he has a bad ankle and now he's coming back from it in week 13, right? That would be missing the buys in week 12. That would be missing like 6 games, I think, since he's already missed 2 by the time you guys see this, or 3. What are they going to do with him? That's my biggest concern. But if you can, not play scared, which I'm not going to trade Hampton, especially seeing this. I think he can get you into the championship, and then he has Houston, which is a middle of the road matchup. In week 15, he has Kansas City, which is a middle of the road to kind of bad matchup. But otherwise, besides that, it's all green. He does have his bye week in week 12, which is something, to also keep in track when you're making some of these moves. Like right now in leagues where I'm struggling, I'm trying to move out of players who I think are kind of in the same range to guys that have already had their bye. Like Josh
Mm.
Jacobs, I won't get too far ahead because he's on the list, but he's a guy that I'm doing that with if I can buy. But what are you feeling about Hampton, man? Are you getting the spooky time spooks, with him and this injury?
No, I'm not. I think they're just being careful with him. I would be spooked if he went. Is he on IR? Did he go on
Yes,
IR?
he is. That was the thing.
Okay.
He went on IR, and then 2 weeks after, they're like, he's gonna miss more games than the four on IR.
Yeah, I take it back. I'm
Right, right. It sounds not great. Like you kind of are like, ooh, okay, what's going on here, guys?
Yeah, yeah. It's tough too. I mean, there's also the missing lineman, right? I mean, that was already a problem for him before he got hurt. So yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, he's probably you're trading for him if you're undefeated or you have like one loss or something like that, and you might be moving someone who may be overperforming, maybe like a ETN or like a Jalen Warren, or maybe you have like a Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt that you can kind of like package up with somebody else to go get into Hampton, especially for if that Hampton is on a team that's, like 2-5 or 3-4 or something like that. They're kind of desperate making moves to get back into it. I could see that being done, and then yeah, just hoping for the best, right? That he comes back. Yeah, if he comes back in week 13, right, that would be 6 games missed or seven games missed, and then he's there to get you into the playoffs with a juicy schedule. But it is, there's Kansas City and Houston in the playoffs also too. So I don't know, man. Like I'm not really trying to bank on the Chargers here going forward. Like we'll get into it a little bit later, but there are some other metrics that have me concerned about the Chargers in general.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think it's a little bit scary. I mean, the only place I do have Hampton is a dynasty league, so that makes me, way more willing to hold, and not kind of sell out for the future just to try to win this year, and try to withstand the loss. But the next team on the list is the Chiefs. Do you want to talk about Pacheco or Brashard Smith or anything particular here? I mean, they do have a really good schedule, like you talked about. They play
Hmm.
the Chargers week 1 of the playoffs, Tennessee week 2, and then Denver, who's surprisingly pretty average against the run in the championship. Do you have any interest really mentioning much about these guys? I'm pretty like meh. Like unless Pacheco starts seeing all of the work again, I'm pretty much not interested.
Yeah, I think Pacheco's a sneaky buy, just because his value is so low right now. And I don't know if people are catching on to the trend that he is getting more work. Um, at least in the past couple games, we've seen him kind of take more work, and when the season started, it was a really weird rotation they had. It was like Pacheco on first downs, Kareem Hunt on second downs, and then who was their third guy that wasn't Brashard Smith that they had that was also cycling in some nobody. I don't even remember who it was. But it was really weird. They had them like separated on like what down they were going on, but that's changed. And now it seems like Pacheco is the guy between the 20s, and then Hunt kind of comes in at the goal line. So there is that concern that Pacheco's not getting the touchdowns. But I mean, I still think that he's kind of a sneaky buy for a floor play. Like if you just need a flex play, like you might be able to go get him for a couple thirds, or maybe you send like a Jacoby Myers type player who, people still might think that is a good, but he's not producing this season. So if you could bundle like Jacoby Myers in a third and go get like Isaiah Pacheco and on a contending team, like to fill a flex, I might be down with that, depending on it. So, but yeah, and then also Brashard Smith, like you get him, you stash him, he's gonna come into play somewhere down the line. It probably won't be until like week 13, week 14, something like that. Maybe after the bye. So I mean, you might get it as soon as week 11 for them. But I like Brashard Smith too.
Yeah, I think in deeper formats and dynasty, at least that can make sense. I mean, Pacheco for the redraft, it's like if you can trade, if he's kind of the extra piece when you're tearing down from somebody, maybe you need to pick up a little bit of depth or fill in bye weeks. We got the bipocalypse, I think, pretty much next week, week
Mm-hmm.
8. So, maybe you have him and just stash him if you can get him thrown in on a deal. But and then let's move on to the guy that I really want to talk to, because his
Mm-hmm.
bye week is passed. He's got Denver, Chicago, Baltimore in the playoffs. So not like crazy good, but Baltimore has been pretty bad. Like I said, keep an eye on how well they do. But Chicago has been pretty bad, and that would be the semifinals, and that's Josh Jacobs. I think he's been underrated. I think now he had that blow up game, right? Like I said, his bye weeks passed. So if you have one of these guys that is going on by, like a Genti, who I traded to get Jacobs for, or one of these guys that has a bye coming up, I think trading into Jacobs, if you're doing somewhat a lateral move, and you could just drop your bye week onto somebody else, maybe it works out perfectly that it's the guy you're playing against in 3 weeks, and they don't pay attention, and you drop your bye week player onto them, and now they got to face Jacobs when they play you, right? That's kind of the type of warfare you can do. But he's my like number one, I think, buy candidate from this list. I don't think he's still as high as some other people, and I just think he's going to carry that offense, right? He's the only kind of guaranteed thing on that offense, and he's starting to get heated up. He has pretty much no negative matchups except Carolina in 2 weeks, and then Detroit in week 13, and the rest of it is all lit up green with like nothing below like the 17th worst matchup. So I think he's going to cook. I think if you have Jacobs, you're riding him to the playoffs, and you got juicy matchups in those playoffs.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, man. Like I'm trying to think like who's a running back that's been doing really good but then doesn't have a good strength of schedule. And I'm looking down here and it looks like we got the Colts. They are ranked 25th. Um, in the playoffs they have Seattle, San Francisco, and Jacksonville. So I don't know, maybe Jonathan Taylor. Maybe you could go get like Josh Jacobs plus for Jonathan Taylor in like a redraft league, something like that. I mean, a little riskier it would be like a Bajan. I mean, Bajan, he's ranked
Too much.
28th.
Yeah.
And they have Tampa Bay, Arizona, and the Rams in championship week there. So, I mean, you could probably get a lot more for than Josh Jacobs for Bajan. That's risky though. Like Bajan's kind of the talent that I would expect to just kind of rise above those bad matchups, and he gets it done in the passing game as well. But maybe you could pack like Brees Hall has a pretty bad schedule adjusted matchup here, and his bye week isn't until week 9. So and he's got New England in the championship week, Jacksonville and New Orleans in the weeks prior for the playoffs. So maybe he's a guy that you bundle up or tear off of to go get into Josh Jacobs, because I'm with you, man. Like it's all green, and then
What Sorry, I was just gonna say, what about Kyron, he's the 32nd for the Rams, right? He's pretty much only 2 positive matchups left, and he still has his bye, which will be coming up next week when you guys are seeing this for week 8. So you could potentially drop him on somebody. Maybe they don't notice the buys, or maybe they think it's fine. They just see the Kyron Williams name, but they have Detroit in the
mm,
first week, then Seattle in the semifinals, and then the number one team to against the run, the Atlanta Falcons in championship week. So if you're on Kyron, I mean, Kyron for Josh Jacobs, I don't think that takes much on the Kyron side to get done. Kyron, I think they're almost back to back in season rankings right now in terms of like their production. I think Jacobs is like 7 and Kyron is 9 in most of the formats that I was playing in. So I don't think it would take a ton.
mm.
And I think those are just savvy moves that if you can, you get out of a bye week and you get out of this really bad schedule where, the Rams, if they get Puka back, maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe the offense is so good. Maybe you believe in Stafford that you don't think it'll matter for Kyron. But Kyron has also been getting buoyed by receptions and touchdowns. So there is a little bit scary of like, what are some of these offenses going to do, and how much do they just start slinging the ball to Puka and Devontae Adams when they're looking to chase potentially a division title, right? They got to play Seattle in week 16, and then they're looking for a playoff spot. So I think that's another guy who you could definitely easily trade for Josh Jacobs, almost maybe straight up if there's a Rams fan in your league or something like that, right? But yeah, well, any other final words on Kyron, or was there anybody else you wanted to shout out from the list that seems maybe they're like in the middle of the pack, or I know we're going to talk about some of the bottom guys, but is there anybody else you kind of wanted to shout out?
Yeah, I just wanted to say if you can do the Kyron for Jacobs, do that. And yeah, add something on top if you can. I was thinking about it when I saw them and I was going through the list. I was like, Kyron and Jacobs are so similar to me. Like you said, they're like 7 and 9 right now that I feel like someone would look at that more closely. But I don't know, maybe someone's sleeping. Maybe you could get it done, and you should absolutely go do that. And I think this is a a perfect transition into the bottom five since we already have the Los Angeles Rams down there. So why don't we look at the bottom five here? So we have Los Angeles Rams at the 32nd, Carolina Panthers just above them, 31st, the Tennessee Titans as the 30th, the Seattle Seahawks as the 29th, and the Atlanta Falcons as the 28th. Did I do that right? Yeah.
You did it perfectly.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't know if you want to start at the bottom here or from the 28th going down with the Falcons, but I'll kind of let you lead here, man.
Yeah, I mean, we took a decent amount of time looking at the top five because I think there's more actionable stuff here. When I look at this list, it's kind of the Kyron thing. Like, what do I believe and what can I do for Kyron, right? Second, if for whatever reason the Panthers are playing their little kind of dumb game saying they have their starter, but they're not going to say who it is. I think if Rico Dowdle, who has a pretty good matchup this the week, he has an okay matchup against the New York Giants. If he then goes out and still has a good game, I'm selling Rico Dowdle anywhere I have for try to sell as high as possible, package him up with somebody else and go get an elite asset because him being at the bottom of this, Chuba Hubbard's not just going to disappear either. He has a bye week right before the playoffs, all horrible things that I don't want to deal with, right? In terms of like, if you have Rico, if you have Chuba, his value, unless he comes in just instantly as the starter and has a game he hasn't had all season, is probably not much. But if Rico does something, right, if you're watching this and Rico already popped off, and then he has a plus matchup against the Buffalo Bills coming up, I'm selling Rico anywhere else. For the rest of these guys, like Tennessee Titans, Pollard and Tyjae Spears, like they're not that like if I can sell out of them, I already kind of am worried about Pollard's usage with Tajay coming back. Just the first game, and Tajay was already eating a lot of that work. I'm probably getting out. And then the one guy you brought up in this list that I'm just I don't care. They could play like the steel curtain plus the Bears defense on top, like against 15 people on defense. I don't care. I'm keeping Bijan and I'm starting him every single week. He's already passed his bye week. He has pretty much all all red and yellow. So he has no pretty much favorable matchups besides San Francisco and Miami. And then he does have Arizona in the semis week, but it's Bijan Robinson. Like he's the type of guy, he's in that stratosphere where he can play against anybody. He's in my lineup. I'm not trading him unless someone's coming to give me a gross overpay. And in any sort of keeper dynasty, he's pretty much untouchable for me. I mean, obviously nobody's untradeable, but you kind of get what I'm saying.
No, I do, man. I love your insight on this. You're so good at all of this. I appreciate just being here with you, and I'm glad that our listeners here can get tuned in too. Yeah, the Titans, man. What do you do like with Tony Pollard in Dynasty? I have him stuck on a team where I need to kind of rebuild or retool, and I don't I want more than what I'm gonna get for him, but like what are we moving him for right now? Because it's not gonna be good. It's not getting better for him. He's in a timeshare and the schedule is not favorable. So like I'm also worried about what he's gonna be next year. I feel like I need to move off of him now.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think he's the type of guy that is just a sweetener because you're not getting him standalone value, right? So he's just the type of guy like, hey, will Tony Pollard get this deal done? And you kind of grit your teeth because you're probably not getting the value you still want anyways, but maybe, whatever piece you're getting in return is helpful. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it gets any better. Maybe they have a decent game against the Chargers, but he's just been very mid this season when Tajay wasn't there, and now Tajay is there to take the work away. And the Titans just have a quarterback problem. I mean, they have a lot of
Hmm.
problems in the offensive line, quarterback play, coaching. They,
Mike
all
McCoy,
the yeah, exactly.
he's gonna
I
change
mean,
him.
maybe you get the rookie, new coach bump against New England this week. I doubt it. They're probably going to get trounced by Vrabel, who's going to put up like 50 points on them. But maybe you do, and you can try to sell Tony. But I mean, he seems like one of those guys that if you don't get out now, the bottom could fall out very quickly, and you're just like a dead type of asset on your team, especially in dynasty. Man, it's rough.
It is. It is. All right. Well, I think that wraps it up on the running backs here. I do appreciate that though. Yeah, I think I'll probably try and add him in as a throw in somewhere. And I do have Stafford on that team, and I'm trying to get rid of him too. And talking about he has some good matchups coming up. But let's move into the wide receivers here. The top five we have from top down. Number one is the Vikings. Two is the Eagles. Three is the Bengals. Four is the Steelers. And five is the Jets. Who of these teams are you interested in here?
Yeah, I mean, we could kind of start from the top again. I mean, that's Justin Jefferson. I think it's interesting that all of a sudden now Wentz is going to play another game when we were told as soon as they got back from London it was going to be the JJ McCarthy show. Is it really still injury, or did Wentz play good enough to, kind of maybe keep a job longer than
Mhm.
we were anticipating? But yeah, I mean, in these plus matchups you're talking about. The first week of the playoffs, if you make it in with Justin Jefferson, you got him against the Dallas Cowboys, right? Like you could see Justin Jefferson put up, no matter who the quarterback is against that defense, like some real wild numbers and stats. Then you got him against the New York Giants, who, if the Vikings line can hold and give, whoever's playing quarterback back there some time, they're the 26th best matchup. And then you got Detroit, in the 30th in the championship, who are the 30th. This just screams Justin Jefferson. I mean, I know we're, mostly focusing on him. I think also Addison gets a little bit of a bump. He's a guy that maybe you can go trade for, or you can go, flex in some of these games if we see the quarterback play. I think that's kind of the biggest thing when you look at this is who is the quarterback, right? And if we see JJ McCarthy, are we seeing something positive or good enough out of him coming into the fantasy playoffs and the championship weeks, right? That's the biggest question. But you don't doubt Justin Jefferson. It's one of those things that we were talking about earlier. It's like, so why does Justin Jefferson not get 15 plus targets, right? Like what, like really, like honestly, like right, and you know that there's reasons for that, blah 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 blah. But when you see Jamar Chase go out there and they win the game, it's like, okay, why do we not use these elite guys as if they are the guy that can't be guarded by anybody on the field, because they can't be, right? But yeah, man, I think Justin Jefferson's wheels up. Hopefully the quarterback play is there. That's the
Yeah.
biggest concern. But how do you see it?
Yeah, no, I'm with you on the Justin Jefferson here. I have him in, I mean, we have him in one of our leagues together that we're really banking him on in. I have him in one other league where I would really love for him to perform here because it's been it's been a slow start. But yeah, the quarterback play is concerning. Wentz has been fine for Justin Jefferson, so hopefully he can get that going. I know they've had trouble on their offensive line as well too with injuries, so hopefully they can kind of get healthy and get back in tune and get Justin Jefferson the ball 23 times, or at least targeted 23 times.
Yeah, 100%, man. I don't know. The next name on this list is just like a guy I just want to forget about. Like I
Ooh,
don't
sore
want to talk
subject.
about it. Yeah, man. It's honestly like AJ be drowning our team. He continues to do it. We're still starting him. I have him on other teams that I'm starting him in. It's just like, but then you see this, and the fantasy playoffs are all bright, green, some really good matches. But it's like, does it matter? Like, are they gonna throw the ball? Like, what are they even gonna do? Like, I don't. I honestly think they're a team that desperately needs a bye week. They have this week where they're playing the hardest matchup. Then they play the New York Giants, which is a really good matchup, and then they have their bye week. It's one of those situations where like maybe by then you're right before the trade deadline, and you hope that he has a good game against New York and then goes into the bye week, and maybe you could sell, or maybe you wait until after the bye week to see if they figure something out with their offense. But they just look like all sorts of like completely out of sort, right? Like for him, Devontae Smith. I mean, the only guy in that offense that you seem to trust right now is freaking Dallas Goedert, who's like, who would have thought that that would be what we'd be saying at this point of the season, man? But I don't know, man. You talk about AJ Brown because I'm getting sick just talking about him.
It's so hard, man, because everything about this offense screams a massive buy, right? I mean, underperformers, full of talent, schedule is just golden, and yet it's just so hard to want to buy into them for all those reasons that you've said, right? It's just been nothing but sting after sting, bruise after bruise. It's been rough. I've been talking about it with you, how to bring it up on the show. But there's this guy who does the P Whopper. Um, I'm blanking on his name right now, but I listen to him through the FF Dynasty, and he does a show with them. But it's also on PFF. He has an article that comes out every week, and he does all these sorts of advanced multi-language modeling, where he's looking at statistics on how people get open, and the whole thing is that the PWOP is predicting who's going to break out in the next week, and if they don't, then they stay on there, and it has a whole bunch of things. So AJ Brown's on that list now. And he even said it in his article that it's probably not going to be this week, because Minnesota is just really good about taking away the kind of coverage that he thrives in. So it's probably not going to be this week, but maybe it'll be week 8 and beyond. And yeah, hopefully he can get going here. I don't know, man. Like, what do you do? Like, my mind says buy into him because you can get him for cheap right now, but my head is just like, or my heart is telling me no.
Yeah, I mean, he feels like the Tyreek Hill of last season, where you just kept waiting, you kept hoping, and he just kept killing your teams. And if you were like surviving, right? I think this is one of those situations where he's actually like killed our team and made it that we lost weeks by starting him. If you have him on a team where you're still winning, even despite AJ Brown, you're like, all right, I'll just keep throwing him out there, and like
Hmm.
I've been winning, so whatever. But I think it's just like, the more losses you've taken with him in your lineup, the more scorn you feel towards him. And yeah, I mean, like this the El Whopper thing you're talking about. I mean, I don't know if people know this. You're like a math guy. You're an engineer, so you get all hot and bothered for that type of stuff. You were explaining it to me, and I was like feeling like I was
Whatever,
in
bro.
freaking Wookie's math class. Like what, like 6-7, like what are we talking about? I have no
Get
idea
out of
what's
here,
going on.
nerd.
Yeah, yeah. That except I was also a nerd in high school, so that doesn't really fit. But in terms of math, man, like it is not my forte. But it was really interesting what you're talking about, right? Like the metrics that person that was putting out, right? Their model. But yeah, man, I think we could kind of move on. Talk about another
I'm gonna do
guy.
it. I'm
Yeah,
gonna go buy AJ Brown, but I'm gonna wait until after this matchup here. I'm
yeah.
gonna
I mean,
go buy him.
it could probably get cheaper, right? Like if he
Yeah,
goes out and has another 3 target, 20-yard game, fucking part of my language there, but horrible game, it could probably get lower, and you could buy
I think I
cheaper,
will.
man.
I'm doing it. I'm gonna do it.
But yeah, I mean, the next guy on this list is a guy we just saw get 23 targets. Amazing. We know the talent, the 101 this year, Jamar Chase. The Bengals here have Buffalo right before the playoffs. They got Baltimore first week of the playoffs, and then the week of the semifinals and the championships. It's a little bit harder. They're not as plus matchups, but pretty much he can maybe carry you all the way, and then you can be prepared to have a little bit of a lower dip in the semifinal and championship. But he's kind of also on that Bijan route, Bijan type of level where it's Jamar Chase. If Joe Flacco can do his thing, then your wheels up. You're good to go with Jamar Chase. I'm not sure, kind of how you look at it. How are you feeling with him?
Yeah, man. No surprise. The Bengals are here again, and they're green all the way across for all of their positions, all of their matchups. Yeah, I'm in. Like it might be too late to be in on them, But are you taking it as far as like T. Higgins?
Yeah, I mean T. Higgins was a don't start. I mean I actually had to start him this week because of injuries and bye weeks, so I actually got lucky. But he was on my poop list to not start until further notice. And I think you're good to go to start him. I mean if Flacco, I mean it's only 2 games, so you don't want to jump the gun too much like we talked
Right.
about. We don't need to kind of rehash the same points. But yeah, man, I'm in on T. Higgins. I mean he's kind of like a nice flex you can throw out there. It's still T. Higgins. And I was just thinking, man, as you were talking about that everything is green, could you imagine if Joe Burrow was healthy? Like this schedule, this like going
Dude,
into this part of the season with a healthy Joe Burrow,
the
like man,
Bengals, the
it would be
Bengals,
it would be
they
everything we dreamed of, right? Like in the preseason.
they can still make the playoffs through their division, and Joe Burrow can come back and
Oh
play.
man.
Like that is seriously like aligning right now for that to happen. It's not going to happen for fantasy, but
Right.
Joe Burrow could be like in the NFL playoffs this year, which is wild.
NFL script writers getting their getting their money's worth here. And then for 4 and 5, you got Pittsburgh with DK. We saw that kind of horrible game. I mean, Rodgers goes out and has a really good game, and DK is just nowhere to be found. I mean, we were talking about it in the Discord. I mean, DK Metcalf is the most gifted lazy athlete I think I see in the NFL. Like he's living off that highlight play where he chased down somebody for after a pick. Like he has the athletic ability to be the best NFL wide receiver. I
Hmm.
generally think that he does have that, but his mindset and his work ethic, like you see him giving up on routes. He's I don't even know what he is, 6'5", 200, whatever he is, built like LeBron James, and a corner is taking the ball away from you. Obviously, it's a hard play, you're falling down, but a corner is ripping the ball out of your hands to get an interception. Like it just seems so much talent is wasted. DK, I mean, maybe things change if they do trade for Jacoby Myers. We look at this list a little bit differently, but in terms of DK himself, I'm not very I'm not interested really in doing anything with this information besides maybe selling it to somebody else and letting them know, hey, you know what, DK is actually going to be good and trying to sell out. But I'm not much into the DK game.
Yeah, that's fair. I tried to buy him in a really deep league where I'm kind of needing help, but yeah, outside of that, man, I've never really been in on DK. And yeah, it doesn't make me feel better that there are trade rumors of the Steelers shop or trying to buy a wide receiver right now. So that's tough. And then yeah, Aaron Rodgers, like if you're responsible for a pick on Aaron Rodgers, like he ain't giving you the ball. Like, and that's what we saw on Thursday night. So it's tough, man.
Yeah, and then last but not least, here you got the Jets. I mean, Garrett Wilson's hurt. I'm guessing he's missing this week. I'm guessing he's gonna miss the next week just because they have a week 9 bye. But I mean, Garrett Wilson to me is elite. This says, you get through the bye week, and then he's got pretty much plus matchups except Atlanta. So I mean, Justin Fields is Justin Fields, but even with Justin Fields, he's been able to be good for fantasy. I'm in on Garrett Wilson. Maybe you have a desperate team that really needs wins in the next 3 weeks, and Garrett Wilson's going to be out, and you can go buy him. I think that is definitely a window that could arise if Garrett Wilson is one of these like playoff bubble teams in redraft where they're trying to make a push and they don't want to stare at Garrett Wilson being doubtful, which is like I don't know. I don't want to go on a side rant. Doubtful is like the dumbest thing I've ever seen. I don't know why that exists, but
Mm.
being doubtful and then out and then a bye week. So I think he's actually a really good candidate if you're one of these stronger teams to maybe go buy a Garrett Wilson in a bit of a dip from a team starving for wins. But otherwise, I'm in. I mean, Jacksonville. Week 1 of the playoffs, New
Yeah.
Orleans in the semi, and then one of the best matchups against New England in the championship. So I'm in. I'm in on Garrett Wilson for this little stretch that you might be able to buy him for cheap.
Yeah, I'm with you situationally, right? Because it's like I want him for the playoffs, but I do not want him for me getting to the playoffs because it's not great getting there. You got to play Atlanta, you got to play Cleveland, you got to play Miami. He's still got his bye. You mix in Baltimore, New England, and Cincinnati, which are fine. But yeah, it's not great getting there. So situationally, if my team's in a good spot, I'm good with the Garrett Wilson stash.
100%, man. Is there we're gonna look at the bottom, but is there anybody kind of out here in the 6 to 12 or any range, any guys you'd want to call out specifically who you might be kind of interested in?
I am, and for reasons we'll get into later, but the Cardinals pass catchers, I'm really into. They have some tough uh, playoff matchups, but then also the Rams. Also, I really like the Rams and what they got going on for their pass catching corps.
Yeah, I mean, if you know Puka is going to be able to be healthy, the run into the playoffs, besides maybe the championship week, and then maybe it doesn't even matter in the championship week, but they're going to be looking to contend for a playoff spot. They're going to be looking to win a division. They have Detroit and Seattle in the first 2 weeks of the fantasy playoffs. This is the Rams speaking, and those are really, really plus matchups. So if you're getting Puka in those matchups, he could be, the league winning type of guys that get you to the championship, and then you got to deal with the Atlanta Falcons. But I really like when we're looking at this stuff too, and I've kind of mentioned it, but just to really hammer it home, looking at teams that for NFL purposes have a lot to play for, right? I mean, it
Hmm.
seems pretty intuitive, but like if you got a team that is 100% into a divisional race or even a playoff race, that guys are going to play a little bit hurt. The coaches are going to be willing to go for it a little bit more. Like everything's on the line, NFL stakes, and that is only good. That only means good things for fantasy. And the Rams are projected to be one of those teams that I don't think anybody's running away from that division, right? Aren't you guys all like 4-2 or something, right? Like they're all
It's really
everybody's
tight.
tied up. So I mean, that just means that down the stretch, every team in that division is going to be playing, and there's a lot of divisional games towards the end of the season that the schedule makers do that on purpose, right? So I think that's a great shout by you, Jmac, to focus in on the Rams pass catchers as well.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, the Bucks also get a shout. I didn't shout them out, but yeah, the Bucks also. But yeah, let's dive into these bottom five, and let's just kind of do this real quick. We got Dallas at the very last at the 32nd, New Orleans 31st, the Colts at 30th, the Jaguars 29th, and the Raiders at 28th. Who are you avoiding of these guys?
I mean, we could probably lump. I mean, it's kind of funny when you get to the bottom that it's the teams that like you don't really like. We just talked about Olave, right? Where might get traded. So maybe you're a gambling man and you really think Olave is going to get traded, so you trade for him out of this horrible schedule. But I mean, I am really out on Jacksonville, like in terms of Travis Hunter. This schedule tells me that even Brian Thomas Jr., who we've been kind of talking about, but maybe more in a dynasty, maybe in terms of that, like if you look at the Jaguars, they pretty much have like all red. The only ones
Mm-hmm.
worse, obviously, are like the Cowboys, but maybe that's a time where Brian Thomas Jr. value even goes down further, right? For fantasy, sorry, for dynasty, and you can maybe look to buy. But yeah, I mean, the bottom four teams that aren't the Cowboys, none of their pass catchers are really that intriguing. This doesn't focus on tight ends. So for Brock Bowers and the Raiders, all the other guys like Pittman has been decent. Maybe he's a guy that you can sell now before the wheels start falling off for the Colts in terms of their passing game. He's been a decent. Maybe you trade him for a different flex. Same with Olave, if you don't think he's getting traded, maybe you just trade him for a different flex guy. Both of those teams have later buys, right? They have buys in week 11. So you're also trading out of bye weeks, which we've been talking about. And then
Mm-hmm.
CD, it's all red. Like literally they have like 2+ matchups, and they still have a bye week, but CD's
Don't
also in
care.
that kind of, yeah, exactly. You
Yeah.
just don't care. I mean, with the way Dak's also playing, the defense, how bad they are, like this could all be red, and you just say okay, but it's CeeDee Lamb and Dax playing at a really high level. It doesn't really matter. I
Yeah.
think that does kind of matter a little bit for Pickens. We've kind of been saying, and I think it's pretty common sense. Like when CD's back, Pickens I think takes a decent hit, and I think that could affect some of this, right? Like the concentration of targets because Ferguson's not going anywhere. But otherwise, man. I don't really care that the Cowboys are last. I'm not doing too much with that information, like you said.
I think Pickens is a good tradeaway target on based on this just because he is like the wide receiver. I don't know. He's up there. I think he's probably like 9 or 7, something like that. It's wild. I mean, he has like five touchdowns, maybe six. He's definitely overperforming too. Like when you look at his fantasy points expected versus what he scored, it's in the pluses. And I think that he's just being fed because CD's not there, and things will change and kind of come back down to normal. He'll still have big blow up games, but it won't be as frequent as they have been. So if you can trade him, I think it's a wise decision to trade him. And then yeah, like the Colts, I'm still interested in them just because they do, even though they have a bad schedule, like 3 games in a row from weeks 10 to what is that, 14. They have a bye in there. They play Atlanta, Kansas City, and Houston, but in the playoffs they play Seattle, San Francisco, and Jacksonville. So I'm okay stashing those guys if you're not desperate for wins.
One thing I wanted to kind of just point out, since we're looking at the bottom, kind of down here, Seattle has like one of the worst ones, and you kind of feel good about JSN, but just to look at a little bit further, they get two of the best matchups, or one of the best, and then a pretty really good one against the Rams in the playoffs. So I
Yeah,
mean, if you have JSN, you are gonna be a happy.
old.
You're gonna be very happy. I mean, you're holding JSN basically no matter what. But even the Sen, like just saying, like the matchups coming into the fantasy playoffs are going to be really juicy, and they're like just like the Rams, right? Another team that we're talking about for the playoff race for the NFL purposes, they're going to be having to score, having to do a lot to try to win, and make our boy Jmac over here do a polar plunge, which I'm hoping if Jmac has to do it, we can maybe get a little video for you guys of that. He's not trying to do all that, but I think maybe we can talk him into it.
I
If,
am
if
not
it,
feeling good about that bet right now with how hurt the 49ers are. If we would have just been healthy, I think this would have been a cakewalk. But yeah, Wookie might get the better of that one. We'll see how we end up here. All right, let's kind of go through. Did you have any quarterback or tight end strength of schedules here that you wanted to highlight? Because I wanted to get into a couple more things on these wide receivers and running backs.
no, for just I mean, it's kind of funny that like Cincinnati's like at the top of like almost all the lists. We were saying we were a bit worried about who's going to be Justin Jefferson's quarterback. They have the second easiest. It's pretty much all green except this week where they play Philly and then the Chargers the following week. But after that, it's top, bottom 30 defenses to like, middle of the table. So maybe you don't have to worry about that. And then Lamar, if he gets healthy, has a really,
Mm-hmm.
really nice schedule. But apart from that, not to dive too much, look at it too deep, but those are just a couple of things that stood out to me looking at the list. It's a little
All
difficult, Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say all three of those teams are meeting the qualifications too of things that they're playing for something, right? The Minnesota Vikings in the NFC North, that is a very competitive division, so I think that they'll still be playing to kind of get there. And the Ravens and the Bengals sharing their division, they're going to be trying to claw their way back into contention for a playoff spot. All right,
100.
let's dive in here to get some tables here lined up. Okay, so what I wanted to do was look at the strength of schedule here, but also wanted to layer in a metric that I've kind of been fond of, which is the passing rate over expectation here, which essentially is just telling you how often a team is passing the ball, even when the script or the game is not calling for them to pass it. So if you have a high passing rate over expectation, you're passing the ball a lot, way more than you would be expected to pass the ball. And how I wanted to implement this was to look at teams that have a high rate of passing rate over expectation, but have a really bad running back strength of schedule. And the idea there is that they're not going to be able to run the ball as well or as efficiently, and they're already more likely to pass the ball. So if we can kind of match up those two things, they have a high pass rate over expectation and a bad running back matchup, then these are kind of the offenses that we want to buy into to get those pass catchers on our teams. And some of the ones that really stood out to me were, I have them at the top here, Tampa Bay, the Rams, Arizona, which I talked about earlier about Arizona being one that I wanted to be in on. But yeah, Tampa Bay wide receivers, they have a tough playoff matchup versus Atlanta in week 15, but I think Baker can ascend and get over them. Yeah, their running back strength of schedule is 29th. So Bucky Irving. Oh, and again, sorry guys, I'm looking this. I didn't include the playoff weeks here. So these are week 7 through 14. So these numbers will change slightly if you include the playoffs in there. But for me, I'm kind of just looking to get into those playoffs, and then I tackled the playoffs a little bit separately. But the Rams were huge for me. Their passing rate over expectation is at 6.1, with a wide receiver matchup, the ninth best, and then the Rams are as the 14th best for the quarterback, and then the 28th best, which we already talked about for the running back. So I really like the Rams pass catches there. If you can go get Devontae Adams or Puka on discount right now. Arizona is another one. They have a passing rate over expectation at 7.6%, and their running back schedule adjusted is 24th with their first for wide receivers, which is really good. I don't know who's going to be the quarterback there, but I think I don't know. Jacoby Brissett might be better for Marvin Harrison Jr. And I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is a buy right now based on these numbers that I'm looking at. Especially since he's been underperforming and now he's hurt. It sounds like he'll play this week. But yeah, are any of those guys kind of striking temptation for you, Jose?
Yeah, I mean, you got some guys that are hurt, right? Like if Puka again, kind of the Garrett Wilson thing, he's got a bye week and he's hurt this week. He's already out for week 7. If he's it's hard to see Puka be on a team that's not doing well, but they do exist out there. So if there's a Puka manager that's struggling and you can, maybe take advantage of this additional information just to even bolster yourself further. But Devontae Adams is definitely another guy who's not going to be nearly as expensive that you could use that for. Marvin Harrison, yeah, I mean, it's always a conundrum of is Kyler going to target him, right? Like, is he going to
Mm-hmm.
get the ball? I don't think, like, unless Kyler's injury somehow gets worse or something, that we'll see much more of Mr. Brisket. But yeah, I think one of the ones that you brought up here in I'm looking at, right, some of the notes also that you have is Waddle, man. I think Waddle is set to kind of potentially be that kind of sneaky league winner going into the playoffs, right? He's got a pretty good strength of schedule
Mm-hmm.
for the playoffs, and these metrics that you're bringing up here all scream like, hey, Waddle hasn't really popped off. He's been pretty decent since Tyreek got hurt, but the ascension might be coming to his near future. So if you want to buy into Waddle, I'm definitely way in that. I have a few shares of Waddle. I mean, just don't watch Miami games because they're kind of hard to watch as a team. And then somehow he like runs a route and runs out of bounds, and then he's in the medical tent. Nobody knows why. He's maybe just checking it out, like taking a rest. I don't know, but Waddle's one of those players where you just like don't pay attention and then you'll be okay because he somehow
Yeah.
always ends up in the medical tent. But yeah, man, those are kind of the main ones that when you were talking about. I mean, with Tampa Bay, it's like Ibuka's hurt, so maybe you can buy that. Mike Evans, who hasn't come back yet, you can buy
Mm-hmm.
into those sorts of guys. And with Baker, like you said, if the post season, the playoffs is difficult, I think Baker is kind of in that territory where I'm okay trusting him to get his guys across the finish line. Maybe it's not the super high ceiling that you'd want, but at least you're not too concerned with what he can do for his pass catchers.
Yeah, no, agreed. One other one I didn't mention was Minnesota. They have the 15th best schedule adjusted for running backs, the 12th best for wide receivers, and the fourth best for quarterbacks, which matters because their quarterback um, we were a little unsure about him, which we were talking about. So having a fourth best schedule for quarterbacks is there, and they're passing the ball, 2% above expectations. So not crazy, but that's something. Yeah, I'm gonna try and get through a couple of these other ones I wanted to highlight. Kansas City has the fourth best wide receiver scheduled for week 7 through 14. They are passing the ball 10.8% above expected. that is just wild. I want their wide receivers. If I can go get Rice, I want him. If I can go get Worthy, I want him. Their tight end matchups is 29th though, so I'm not really hoping to go get Kelsey or anyone over there. I think that's where I kind of draw the line there. I also wanted to highlight Washington, which they don't really have a great wide receiver room that you want to buy into right now, but maybe Terry McLaurin is a buy and stash, hoping that he comes back for the playoffs because their playoff schedule is pretty good. They play the Giants, they play Philly, and then they play Dallas in the championship week, which is what I want. And they're also passing the ball 4.1% over expectation. The Chargers also meet this list at 6.8% over expectation. Their wide receivers don't have a great matchup though at 17. So I'm kind of out on them, which is what we were talking about earlier. Like I really don't want anything to do with this Chargers offense right now. I think I'm just going to try and sell those pieces and then kind of back out slowly. And then if we're looking at the bottom here for people who aren't passing the ball as much as expected, and looking about who has good running back matchups, Baltimore meets that. So Henry might be due for a little resurgence. They also have the 27th best matchup for wide receivers. But what I really wanted to highlight here was that they're the number one matchup for tight ends. Because I already told you guys earlier in the episode, I'm a likely guy. I want to see him go off. And, if Lamar can come back and be, just rejuvenate this offense, I think likely could be a big part of that. And then Henry can kind of get the lead and take it and run with it. Judkins meets this list, which we've already kind of beat with the hammer there earlier. Swift and Warren also meet this list for Chicago and Pittsburgh, but they have really bad playoff schedules. So they might be able to get you to the playoffs, but I don't know that they're going to help you win a championship.
Yeah, that was when we traded for Warren, kind of one of the things I was looking at. Obviously, I didn't have this chart from you, but looking at some stuff and just how Warren had been playing, and the fact that he doesn't have a bye week anymore. He was one of the guys that I was targeting and why I traded with you for him, because I felt like if I'm going to make the playoffs in the league we're talking about, he was going to kind of be one of those glue pieces, and then kind of figure it out from there. So yeah, man, I we all want to see there's a lot of decent fantasy value pieces tied to the Ravens. So I think we want to see Lamar come back healthy after this bye week, hopefully, and play well and do Lamar things, help Henry, help the tight ends, save Flowers, those sorts of players. So I'm definitely hopeful that he'll come back. I know you have a little bit of stats here about his passing rate over expectation when they had Lamar, right? It was pretty high, right?
Thank you.
With those 2 weeks. So maybe we see that jump as well. But yeah, I think that all this stuff is really cool, and it's kind of just another deep extra layer. And this is some of the stuff we like take from other people, but Jmac puts a lot of work. Like all this stuff you're seeing on the screen, this is all Jmac. Like he's doing this himself. So if you guys hit that thumbs up, that like, leave a nice little comment for Jmac, because he's busting his butt putting this stuff out and doing this, and it's really cool, man. Like it's cool that we have this here and that Jmac puts the effort into it, and just another little crumb, another little piece of the puzzle for you guys to try to go win a championship.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's a blast, honestly. Like I really enjoy doing this stuff, so I hope you guys enjoy hearing about it because there's going to be a lot more of it. But yeah, I had another table I want to throw up here, but I think we're running long, so I'm gonna throw that one and this one in the comments. But I'll give you a quick little synopsis of what it is. So what we're looking at here is the baller strength of schedule, week 7 through 14 against the pass rate over expected. PFF also does a strength of schedule, but they don't do it as schedule adjusted with like points above expectation. They do it based on their PFF grades for their players and looking at matchups that way, which I think is kind of a unique and different way to do it. You end up getting some different information for it. Like the Jags are a huge buy when you look at it. There is some agreement between them too, so I like the ones that agree, and I kind of want to run more with those ones, and kind of look at a side eye with either one of them, that don't agree. But I'll throw it down in the comments so you guys, or sorry, down in the description so you guys can look at them and dive through them a little bit more. But other than that, man, let's get into the outro here. Another great episode. Jose, thanks for hanging out with me, talking ball. This is always a lot of fun. I appreciate you and everything you do for here at Future First.
Oh yeah, 100%, man. This is always a little bit of a highlight of the week for me. It's always fun to get on here and just chat it up. It's about something we spend a lot of time as a hobby doing, right? A
Way too
passion
much.
for both of yeah, a passion for both of us. But yeah, guys, don't forget on YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe if you can, leave us a comment. I think we're gonna be rolling out here a little bit of a new graphic, so in terms of our logos and stuff. So shout out to Fox, who's been helping us with that again. And yeah, Twitter, make sure you guys are following us there. We're on Apple Pods, Spotify. Rate the show, 5-star review, the whole thing.
Peace.